What a pleasure to be here, joined by Derek Fildebrandt. He's the big boss over at Western Standard Online. Highly recommend them for Alberta news and views. Derek, great to see you.
Oh, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
You know, you've done a great job during this campaign. You've hosted debates and forums, and thanks for including us in them. Look, the conventional wisdom is that Danielle Smith is going to win this thing. It's tough to know because it's tough to poll just party members. You ask the general public, who cares what they say, because they're not members. They don't have the franchise to vote. Is it, though, a done deal? Is Danielle Smith going to win?
Like you, I'm a contrarian, and I like to say things that go against conventional wisdom, but the conventional wisdom is sometimes wise.
Yeah.
And my money is she gets 45 on first ballot, and whenever Todd Loewen drops off, probably around third, possibly fourth, then I think she takes it. Something else could happen. We've had an office pool going since this whole thing started. We've got a couple people who have put their money on first ballot wins, but I think she's going to take it. But I'd be surprised, although it's not out of the realm of possibility, that she gets it on first.
I got a question for it. I put it to the last person sitting in that chair a moment ago, Rachel Emanuel. I said, if she doesn't get a blowout in the first ballot like Pierre Poilievre did federally, will there be underminers? Like, I think the media was setting up, contrarians, Jean Charest, red Tories, to sort of say this isn't the real heart of the Conservative Party. Pierre Poilievre's 68% win blew that out of the water. And I don't think a lot of people are predicting a 68% win out of the gates for Danielle Smith. And you've seen a sharper criticism of her. In fact, there was a sort of a joint press conference by the other candidates who all shoot at her sovereignty act. How big an issue is unity going to be? Are you going to see people quitting the caucus? Are you going to see a rump party on the center breakaway? What's going to happen if she doesn't get a home run in her first ballot?
I don't see it in the cards getting a 68% nuclear majority like that. Poilievre, I think, benefited from lower expectations. I think the legacy media, the punditry, they thought, well, there's just no way Jean Charest can get in the teens and just be an also-ran candidate. There's no way that all these others are going to be nothing. So I think Poilievre was actually a beneficiary of lower expectations. Everyone kind of thought he was going to win, but not like that. Now everybody seems to think Smith is going to win, but Poilievre set the bar at a ridiculous level that's going to be held up to. That nuclear win that Poilievre had makes it really tough for anyone to carpet him saying that he's an interloper. Smith is going to have unity problems on a number of fronts. There's a number of conservatives are I say, the United Conservative Party is neither united nor conservative nor a party, like the Holy Roman Empire, and neither Holy nor Roman nor an empire.
Yeah.
And so they're a loose amalgam at the best of times. Sometimes I wonder if it really is possible to hold wild rose or species together in the long term in one party. There's going to be a number of things. Some of it is ideologically motivated. Some of it's personal. I think you probably will see some leaving, but for other reasons.
I think Leela here. That's my guess. What do you think?
We've got another office pool going. She's not going to run as a UCP MLA in the next election.
I think she's going to run as a Trudeau Liberal candidate. What do you think?
Yeah. Or it could be for the NDP, could be Alberta Party or Liberal. Liberals
they need a leader.
They need a leader, but everybody knows that's not going anywhere. Maybe Alberta Party. You could see. She could end up moving in somewhere into the city of Calgary because she would not win the Chestermere Strathmore. But she's never had a open nomination in her life,
right? And
she will face one. She will lose it if it's an open nomination. So she might cloak this in language of Sovereignty Act and conservatives are all racist, but it'll be more about the nomination. Others, I'd be surprised if Travis Taves went rogue. I think he's a bit more of a company man.
Soldier. Yeah.
Yeah. I expect Smith is going to probably be magnanimous with folks, even though he's been tough in the campaign. Campaigns are campaigns. There's always blood on the floor. I don't think it was so bad that she can't make peace with him. I think you'll see guys like him stick around. Brian Jean, I got a feeling he wants to be leader or nothing. So I'd expect there's a good chance he just serves out a term and that's the end of that. Then there's some other Todd Loewen. That won't be a problem, but she's going to have problems, I think, less with the membership of the party than with the caucus.
Right.
And remember, Jason Kenney said he wants to stick around until the next election. He's out today trying to hog the media spotlight today. I've never seen anything like it. I think he's going to make it. Maybe I'm being uncharitable here, but I think some part of him at least wouldn't mind if Smith or who his successor is lost the next election, because then he could say, "The ungrateful wretches should have stuck with me. I don't want."
If I can't have it, no one can. Sheila, so I got a bunch more questions,
I
but I want to
know.
let you in here. Go
Mine
ahead.
will be short and
You
sweet.
go
I
ahead.
know.
I can't promise my answers.
No, I know. So I guess I have two questions. My first is, so what does Danielle Smith do to foster unity within the caucus? And my second question, which is unrelated, but I'm just going to say it so that you don't jump in. What happens to Jason Kenney after this?
On the first, some of it is just a lot of it's personalities and egos. She should keep probably some of the ministers there. I don't think Tapes has been this rock rib fiscal conservative like portray himself as.
I feel like he benefited a little bit from a war.
Yeah. I always used to joke, if we're gonna have the only new department I would support creating in the Alberta government is our own counterintelligence agency to ferment wars and improve the price of oil.
Right.
Real nasty stuff. But he's a competent minister. I think she should make peace with guys like that. I think she should be magnanimous. There's going to be a real want from a lot of people in that camp, assuming they win tonight, to settle some scores. And it's not just from the campaign, it's going back from the actions of this government. I think they should resist that temptation. You haven't had no conservative leader in Alberta has even completed a single term in office since Ralph Klein in 2004.
Wow.
So we are approaching 20 years.
That's right.
Technically, the only premier to complete a single term in government since then was Rachel Notley. I mean, Jason Kenney used to say one and done, but she lasted longer than he did.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, this is a roundabout way of saying I think a lot of it is just she needs to be magnanimous. Some heads are going to need to roll, probably.
I think so.
Some of the people responsible for the actions of the government, most responsible during COVID. I think some nominations got to be opened back up. MLAs, Kenney loyalists who had their nominations protected on extremely dubious grounds. Let the members in those ridings vote. But for the most part, I think if she's magnanimous, if she resists the urge to settle a score, it'll serve her well. And this leads into Kenney. If anyone deserves to have a score settled, it's with Kenney, who has just taken the unprecedented action of directly inserting himself into the leadership race to replace him. I've never seen it before. I've never even heard of it before in Canadian political history. He has just disgraced himself in the way he has conducted himself.
And then his spending spree. I think back to the guy who once was the Alberta head of Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and he's.
You're me?
I'm talking about Jason.
Yeah.
Jason Kenney. I mean, what would he have said if there was a lame duck premier past his leadership rejection, blowing billions of dollars and going on a global tour on the government dime? So
well, your goal at that point is to be a caretaker, try to unite the party, put some things in the kitty, some good announcements for your successor to take over. He's done all of that stuff. Smith would clearly do, like ending bracket creep, devoting the surplus towards the debt. These would have been nice, easy, good news announcements for the new leader to hit the ground running. It's all been about legacy for him, and then directly intervening in the leadership race in a way none of us have ever seen.
Yeah.
She has a right to settle a score. I think she should resist the temptation again. But I think is he really
going to be in cabinet?
Absolutely not.
And well, it should even be in caucus because I mean, having him in that room when he's clearly has no control over his emotions in regards to this whole thing would only destroy the ability to cobble a team together. I think that he should either willingly not attend any caucus meetings or be told you're not welcome, or frankly be sacked from the party,
or just resign. We actually wouldn't even trigger a by-election because we're close enough to the general. That would be fine. Or just kind of, defeated leaders often stay in a caucus and no one expects them to go in. Yeah, Stephen Harper, when he was defeated in 2015, he served. He served at least a while.
Yeah.
He showed up to the budget vote and then took off. He tried not to overshadow the process to replace him and overshadow the new leader. That's
even Aaron O'Toole kept his nose out of everything.
I don't have a lot of good things to say about O'Toole, but he did. He has kept a low profile. He
Yep.
let the party move on,
Yep.
and he didn't try to make it about himself. So he's going to be a conundrum for Smith to fix that a new leader probably shouldn't have to deal with, but she's going to have to.
Here's the trouble for Danielle, I think. Because she is from outside the caucus, she has great strength in criticizing everything they've done in the last 3 years. But how do you put together a cabinet? How do you put together a team that is an outsider team? You cannot. By definition, you cannot. And, because almost every one of those MLAs is a first termer, there wasn't a lot of seasoned talent to choose from for cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the people who are in Kenny's cabinet, they may have been wrong on things, but they have some competence, they have some experience and some skill. It's going to be tricky for her to put together a cabinet of people who believe in what she says, including her criticisms of what they've done the last 3 years. Like, how do you take people you've been running against and build a cabinet out of them? That's a tricky move.
Sir Johnny MacDonald said, I have to build a cabinet out of the wood I have. Something to that effect. She's going to have to work with what's there. There are some ministers who actually did a pretty good job. She can keep around. Some who did maybe a middling job, but maybe have potential. And then there's some who were just terrible for one reason or another. She needs to jettison some. But then there is material on the backbenches she can promote. Now, it's not her caucus. This was not her hand-selected slate of people elected. So you're going to see two cabinets. You're going to see, again, I'm going to sound like an idiot if she doesn't win tonight, but I'm going on that list. You'll see the interim cabinet, and that's a cabinet that takes her to the election. But I would not expect that that's going to be her governing cabinet. This cabinet is going to get her to the election and through it. She's going to be jettisoning everyone who's not running again. So some people who they're just not running on for one reason or another, they're going away. So she's going to have to promote some backbench material in. And she had more support among the backbenches anyway than she did in the cabinet itself. She had, I think, just Casey Madhu may have been the only cabinet minister supporting her. But then she's going to have to recruit some people to run under her banner in winnable constituencies. As I said, it's the best 4-year job and only 4-year job in the province. You're done in 4 years. If she wants to have a prayer of making it for a re-election someday, she's going to have a united caucus. Kenny had a united caucus when he got elected in 2019, and then he squandered that.
Right.
She's starting with a caucus that mostly is opposed to her to begin with. So she's going to have to recruit candidates in winnable ridings and build a real governing cabinet out of that roughly half a year from now after the next general election.
Now, I guess the big question is, can she defeat Rachel Notley?
Yeah. So the polls, if you're looking at just net of favorabilities and likabilities, she has by far the biggest negatives in the province among the different candidates, but that's also because she's by far the most well-known. Most people don't know who any of them are except for her and a lesser extent, Brian Jean. And Brian Jean's generally considered pretty likable. People don't have strong feelings about him one way or another. But her negatives are overwhelmingly concentrated among hardcore NDP voters. NDP voters hate her 10 out of 10, and she doesn't need to worry about those. So the polls I look at aren't net favorability, whatnot, when I'm comparing across UCP leadership candidates as a viable candidate. I look at how are you likely to vote based on these different scenarios with people as leader. And in that, all the candidates are within 1 or 2 points in most of the polls. And the UCP has bounced back up once it was announced he's going, because the big number to look at, and it's not getting enough attention. 6 months ago, the Wild Rose Independence Party with no money, today no leader, arguably, whatever that is, no profile, no MLAs. That was at 15 to 17% 6 months ago. Today it's about 4. And I would gander some of that is kind of their internal collapse, but also the expectation Smith is likely to win, bringing those people in. So it's not just fighting over the so-called center, which I don't believe is a real thing. People are more complicated than that. But bringing in populist, Alberta first, sometimes full sovereigntist voters back into the Conservative coalition. So this is a roundabout way of saying I think whoever the leader is stands a better than not chance of winning the next election. I'm just not going to put my money on any of them breaking the record of the last 18 years and ever having a chance at a re-election.
That's a great factoid. Thank you for that. I know you're busy and you got your own team to run here, so we're really grateful you popping by. It's nice to see you. I just want to ask one more question, and it actually goes to the media. And one of the reasons I like Western Standard, not
Other
just,
than that, you founded the original one.
well, that's one reason, but I like the fact that you guys are Western first. You're in the heart of the West, so there's no bananas, there's no shenanigans going on. I just heard that there are 200 journalists registered here. I'm not sure if that could possibly be true. I guess that includes camera people and also
Yeah,
because there's a lot of camera crews here, and we're on a riser. I think that's CTV over here, and
I was too cheap for it. I saw the price and I was like, they charged me $500 for internet. I'm not
I
buying the riser.
I
we
know.
know.
But
I choked on it.
you know what? I guess my point was the opposite. Is that a lot of journalists are here, and here's my theory. For the last little while, people, until the trucker convoy took all the political air out of the room. And then the end of the mandates, and then Pierre Poilievre, his leadership, and you had an election in Ontario. You had an election just a few days ago in Quebec. These were really big things in the mind of national journalists. By national, I mean, the Toronto Star, the Globe and Mail, CTV, CBC, Global News. But that's sort of done now, and the summer's done now, and there's not a lot cooking right now. And I don't think that the media party, as I call them, has been paying a lot of attention to this Alberta race. I just don't think they've been, because these other things are more interesting to them.
Mm-hmm.
But if Danielle Smith wins tonight with her Alberta Sovereignty Act and with her normalization of Quebec-style rhetoric about independence or sovereignty, or at least not separation, but we're going to take our share.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to terrify the Andrew Coynes of the world, the Rosemary Bartons of the world. It's going to shock them. And they, I think, my prediction, are going to declare war against Danielle Smith in a way we have not seen since the war that was declared against Stockwell Day some 25 years ago. I think that they have largely ignored this Alberta leadership race because they didn't understand it and they're bored by them. But if Danielle Smith wins, I think you are going to see the entire political class have a motto: kill Danielle Smith. What do you think?
I'd agree with 90% of what you said. Where I think where we part is that they have been paying a bit of attention only so far as involves the Smith and the Sovereignty Act.
Okay.
Right.
That is it.
And all of a sudden they like what Jason Kenney has to say.
Yeah, all of a
It's
sudden,
weird.
Jason Kenney goes from right-wing reactionary racist to reasonable middle-of-the-road statesman.
When he's criticizing
it's incredible
Danielle
how
Smith.
conservatives become reasonable people once they're no longer running for office.
Yeah, they have a strange new respect.
Yeah. It's perfectly reasonable for, say, Francois Legault, who is, I think, in a similar vein. He's a sovereigntist for Quebec, but he's not a independentiste, or however you pronounce that.
Right.
He's a sovereigntist, which is get maximum control you can while the maple leaf still flies, and putting Quebec first, not Canada first. And that's just par for the course. And in fact, Quebec can enact the most racist legislation in North America. It's not Alabama anymore, people. It's Quebec. And this is just kind of perfectly par for the course. A couple little columns here and there, but move on. Whatever. It's Quebec. It's different. Someone in Alberta says vaguely the same thing, and they've lost their mind. So they have paid a little bit of attention to it. They have been uniformly negative about it. But I think you're right that it is going to get to a whole new level where even many conservatives in the East might quietly even prefer the NDP here because it is seen as rock-ribbed federalist. So just as, you'd have conservatives in English Canada once upon a time who hoped that the Liberals in Quebec would win. Well, geez, they might be Liberals, but they're Federalist. It's the Federalist team. So I think there's a world of hurting coming on Smith and the UCP here from the media, both outside of Alberta and inside, because inside Alberta, as we know, all of the legacy media is all operated out of Toronto. All four major daily papers in Alberta operated Post-Media out of Toronto,
And they're all in the
New
bailout.
Jersey.
They're all
in the bailout, and they're owned in New Jersey.
That's right.
So it's not
Right.
There is no Alberta legacy media other than maybe the Medicine Hat News, the Red Deer Advocate or something. There is no Alberta legacy media.
And we saw that, and I know I promised I'd set you free, but we saw that when the Alberta Prosperity Project, which is a semi-sovereigntist lobby
I
group.
think they're independence minded.
That's right. I mean, whatever.
I think that's fair.
And okay, I accept what you say. I accept that. So they invited the panelists to come. And by the way, if you disagree with them, what a great chance to go and say, hey guys, I go with you this far the way, but this last mile I won't go, and here's why. And I hope you can accept that. I respect you.
Which is what Brian Jean did.
That's right.
There.
So by the way, if you're invited to speak at a panel by a group that you don't totally agree with, I think the grown-up thing is, well, I want to represent all Albertans. I'm going to go there and I'm going to just speak very plainly and friendly, tell them why I disagree.
Well, so Travis Taves, who canceled on that one, he did show up for a debate where he did disagree with them. The Alberta Teachers Association, a militant, hard left union, had their own little debate or forum kind of thing. And I think Travis Taves, he might not be as conservative as maybe some of us, but he's way more conservative than they are. And he is not an ATA guy, but he went and showed up to their debate and politely disagreed with their views, because that's what you do in a democracy.
And good for him for that. But
he didn't do it with Alberta Prosperity Fund and you guys.
Here's why.
Right.
Because Jason Markusoff of the CBC, formerly of Maclean's, called him up, not with a journalistic question, but with I'm writing a story that you're going to hang out with these separatists, and I need to know in 2 hours by my deadline if you're going or not. And this is journalism, by the way. You've got 2 hours to let me know if you're going. That's not journalism. That's a shame.
That's your Markusoff impression.
That's that's not even a Markusoff impression. That's just me showing that was not journalism.
Okay.
That was cancel culture. And Travis Taves panicked and he canceled himself, and that showed a little bit of weakness, I think. But that is the kind of journalism you are going to see from what I call the media party or the regime media. I really think you're going to see that. And by the way, Danielle Smith deserves some criticism, as I've even dealt some tonight. But you will see the gotcha journalism and the unfair journalism of a generation.
They're listening to every broadcast she's ever done right now.
I'm sure they've transcribed them all and searching for bad words.
Fair, I think she's known that she's been under the microscope for a long time.
Sure.
I mean, she's not Joe, who was a trucker and decided to run. She's been in media. She's been in Canadian Federation of Independent Business, Herald, politics. Briefly had a podcast of the Western Standard.
Yeah.
So I think she's been conscious that she's been on the public record for
but she's
20 years.
A little bit radical in her own way. She's radical libertarian in some of her ideas, which is a strength and a weakness. She'll toy with any idea, but sometimes she gets swept up in some. Derek, it's great to see you. Thanks for stopping by our humble place here, and congratulations on Western Standard. Even though I don't have any involvement in its new iteration, I feel a tiny bit of paternity, just a tiny drop when I see it.
You donated the egg.
Well, the name. That's all I'll take credit for is the name. You're doing a hell of a job with it. I enjoy it very much. You guys are, and especially to have an Albertan view on an Albertan subject. It's important. Keep it up. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Derek.
coming
Great
by.
to see you both.
Yes.